Now it is the time to introduce you our guest speaker of the day. He is a senior chartered accountant, corporate trainer, leadership coach, management consultant, and business advisor with a proven track record holding a senior leadership positions in leading local entities and multinationals. He is the chairman, principal consultant of HCP Consulting Private Limited, and the founder and the CEO of the Human Capital Partner. He has served on the governing council of CA Sri Lanka for 2 consecutive terms and currently serves as on the executive committee of CA Sri Lanka SME Task Force. As a leading corporate trainer, he has inspired over 100,000 individuals both in Sri Lanka and overseas. And most importantly, he is a proud alumnus of the Department of Accounting. Dear sir, we are honored to have you with us today. Please welcome our guest speaker, Mr. Chaaminda Kumarasiri, to share his expertise with us. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. I hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Vanshika. First of all, let me take the blessings from the dignitaries, Professor Dayananda and Dr. Kinsley, the co-chairs of Young Accountants Research Conference, Senior Professor Kennedy Gunawardena, Head of the Department of Accounting, Professor Nimal, Dean, the Faculty of Management Studies in Commerce, and Professor Chandan Aluwathake, the keynote speaker today, and my dear lecturers of the Department of Accountancy, and the young accountants who are going to present their findings. As a product of the Department of Accounting, as you rightly mentioned, it's indeed a great pleasure, privilege, and an honor for me to deliver this speech in an important event like this. First of all, I must congratulate all these young accountants for the tremendous job they have done, adding to the knowledge base. Research means new knowledge coming into the picture other than copying or shifting. So you have done a great job. And I also want to talk a little bit about Professor Aluwathake. It's a great pleasure to see him after, I think, 20 plus years. I'm seeing him, and you took me back in the time machine, I believe. And I still remember the interesting lectures you delivered, some of the stories. And even today, I pretty much enjoyed your session. In fact, I couldn't focus on what I'm supposed to say. Let me just, in the interest of audience and to start with a little humor, quote one example of his responses during the lectures, because I used to be a regular bite in the lecture. I think I was called Densil those days. Even now, university people call me Densil. I had a question for him, because I had my girlfriend, then now my wife, was sitting next to me in the lectures. I asked him, "Sir, is getting married a good thing?" He said, "Getting married is bad." But he didn't stop. He continued and said, "But not getting married is worse." So I decided to marry. So that's the type of humor he had in this class. With that, let me start. I, in fact, didn't come prepared with a technical session. No, I am not qualified enough as Professor Aluwathake to talk about those detailed technical stuff. My job, I think, here today is to bring in the industry flavor or the market flavor and how I look at things from a market perspective. So I thought, let me touch upon an important area, that is, why do we need research? Why do we need people who do research? Right? It is not going to be an academic explanation I'm going to give. You will realize that as we move on. So I'll give you a few reasons why I believe so. If you look at the country level today, we are in a big crisis. Some call it a mess as well. Not only at the country level, even at organizational level, we see most of the decisions are taken based on gut feeling, hearsay, and sometimes based on symptoms, not based on root causes. And mostly we see simply copying something that worked well elsewhere and try to see whether it works here as well. So this is what has been happening over the years, and I think what we go through today is partly to do with those things. So we need data-driven decision making. We need clear root causes, grassroots level realities to come to the surface to make decisions. Take a very recent example. Now, how much we are struggling to implement a seamless full distribution mechanism. If we had adequate data, if we had proper methodologies that we generally follow in research deliberations, and if we had some science and logic behind it, I think we wouldn't have to worry too much about it, but still we are struggling. And also, we need research to identify real problems in the society and in a nation, rather than working on the perceptions or opinions of people and politicians. And we also need to get our priorities right. So that's again a problem we have, whether at a country level have we got our priorities right. Even today, with the little reserves we have, are we focusing on the real priorities, and are we spending that money where it should go, or are we still just randomly picking the keys and moving here and there? And more importantly, this is the most important part I want to discuss today. We need research because it improves skills among graduates, professionals, and whoever who engage in the process. Now, as Professor Alavatthage touched, there are two streams of research: academic research and professional research. So I have gone through academic research option because even when I was in the university, I took up that and I did my research, and even when I was doing my MBA, I did a research. So I have experienced that path. And now I'm in the consulting field. Now I am actually doing the professional research as mentioned, and I must tell you, I can do it well because I have done academic research. Because the ingredients that I have captured, knowledge I have gained, experience I have accumulated, help me to do my professional research much better and serve my clients better. And I want to touch on this part I mentioned about these skill things, right? Sometimes we think, especially as undergraduates, when you are asked to choose between the research option and various other things, there's a lot of buzz around it. You go and check with different people among your colleagues and different parties. And most of the time, we think research is for academics. Right? If you don't have an intention to stay in the department as a lecturer or continue in the academic arena, don't go there. If you want to do a job, go and do something else, because research has no relevance, because you are not going to do research in your job. So there are a lot of logics and arguments around it. But I sit on many interview boards. As a headhunter, I also support organizations to recruit people. In my evaluation criteria, if the candidate has done research, has produced the research, 50 to 60% of my interview evaluation, I put a tick on skills. I'll tell you why. Right? Sometimes we don't realize this. Because doing a research is not an easy task. It's not just a methodology or collection of information and putting it in a report and publishing it. It has so many things inside it. If a person has gone through a research process, that person is a well-molded, සිංහලෙන් කියනවා හොඳට පදන් වෙච්චි කෙනෙක්. how do you get molded when you do a research? So let me relate that research work and how it applies in the corporate world or wherever you work or engage. First and foremost, you learn the art of searching for information, right? In a corporate world, unlike in your school or many academic courses, you don't get a textbooks, reference material, or all the knowledge that you require to sit for the exam into your hand, and you just have to read from the book and apply. No, in the corporate world, you have to search for information. You face situations, you face problems, you have challenges, you have issues. Then no one will come and tell you the answer to this problem is in this book. No one will find information and give it to you and put it on your table. You have to have the ability to first decide what type of information I need to address this issue or solve this problem, and where to get that information, how to get that information, and that's a separate process altogether. And it's not just collecting information, collecting credible information, collecting relevant information. That's very important. So you learn this through your research process. Then you also need to master attention to detail when you work in a corporate setup, for example. So let's say you go and work in an organization and you need to follow certain policies, procedures, guidelines, laws, standards, all of them. So you to do that, you need to understand and study them thoroughly and get the nitty-gritties right. So if you don't pay attention to detail and understand each of them, you won't be able to apply it. And in research, you have to go to that. I know when you write a research report, you pay attention to every single word you write because you don't want it to be challenged. And for you to ensure or validate your finding, you need to go to nitty-gritties, cross-check, validate, find various other supporting and against information. You have to do all that. So you should have the ability to do that without just touching on the surface. And the next skill you develop is taking notes. Right? So when you start doing a research, those who have gone through the research, you know, you live in it. Wherever you go, you find something interesting, something relevant for your research problem or research report, you grab it and you take it down. And you note the key points. Right? This is a problem in the corporate world. Most of the times the corporate executives can't remember what they were asked to do during meetings. And sometimes they don't know how to take minutes of meetings. They don't know how to capture the key points of discussions. Right? So if you have the skill, research report, first you need to convince your supervisor that your problem is the right problem that you have picked for the research. And then throughout the process, you do a lot of convincing and negotiation with people, and eventually you have to convince another panel or whatever the team for you to get your research approved. So you need to master, and when you deal with different stakeholders in collecting data, you may have to do a little bit of convincing here and there as to why you need to do this research, why they should give you the information, and collecting information from different parties. So again, you need that skill. So I can keep on adding to this list. I just gave you a few that I can think of just to let you know, did my research was on a totally different in big time. Right? The ability to maintain a free mind, unbiased mindset until you find something to prove. Otherwise, try to prove it or otherwise, depending on your requirement. So there's a little bit of bias there, but other than that, as a research, what you are trying to do is, rather than giving your opinion or your gut feeling, you are trying to prove something with facts and evidence. So therefore, it promotes your skepticism. Then it also promotes patience. You need a lot of patience to do a research. I don't need to elaborate on it. Those who have gone through the process would know. And it requires creativity. It's about not copying something. You are trying to create something original. You have to think differently. You have to look at things from a different angle. So that requires your creativity to be promoted and improved. And finally, with all that, you build fresh knowledge to the knowledge base, and you are trying to do something original, and you are trying to do that on your own and you build your self-confidence with that I can do something totally new that no one else has ever done in this world, because it's your original production. You are the only person who owns it. Right? That is self-confidence. So with that, I must reiterate, in the interest of time, I don't want to go further on this. I just want to highlight, if possible, I know today we have only research people who have done the research or someone interested in it, but I think it can be given to every undergraduate, right? If you have the option at any point in time to choose the research option in your degree program, please do so. Don't think it is irrelevant, because not about the report, it is about the skill set that you develop. It's a complete package of skills coming in one module. People don't realize it. And that is very much relevant in the corporate world. And that is one of the biggest differentiator between an academic and a professional, because you can't get this through a professional course. Sometimes we argue about it. There's no difference between doing a degree and a professional exam, because in a degree you just learn something and pass the exam. In a professional course we also have training and all other things, therefore that is better. But what people don't realize is, through things like research, you get a lot of things into your life and your character. You are adding fresh knowledge to the knowledge base, and you become a creator of knowledge, and at the same time you acquire a lot of confidence and skills to mold yourself that will help you to perform well in any context. Finally, I want to touch within 2 minutes just one more thing, because Professor Alawattake also touched on it about sustainability. That's very important, because as some of you might know, I have representing International Federation of Panel of Accounting Education, IPAE. So we are, in a way, it's a good experience and a privilege for me to contribute to the global accounting education agenda. So these days we are deliberating a lot of things in developing the accounting professionals, and there are 3 things that we are focusing on. One is ethics, how to implement and encourage the practice of ethics, not just learning of ethics, because that is becoming more and more important in today's world. As Professor highlighted earlier, we have 2 flows, productive flows and corruptive flows. This corruptive flows is mostly influenced by this lack of integrity and this ethical background, especially among professionals, and that is visible in the Sri Lankan context as well. If the so-called educated people and the professionals had ethics, integrity, the country wouldn't have been suffering to the level that we do today. Because I always believe even politicians cannot rob without the support of educated people, right? They don't know. So professionals rob, educated people cover it up, or they help them. That's what happens. So it's important that this ethics is practiced and inculcated among all levels in the society, starting from professionals. Secondly, we focus on technology, because today everyone needs to be savvy with the latest technology, the developments, because most of the traditional accountants seem to be lacking in some of these tools, and therefore they find it difficult to execute their role effectively. And more importantly, we are focusing on sustainability. And so much so that we are now even deliberating at the global level, at the council level, how to revise and improve international education standard on sustainability, and bring in more and more content there to be included in the curriculums and the educational programs of accounting people, starting from the school level. How do we promote that sustainability mindset? Sustainability is not a subject, it's a mindset to start with. And then how we inbuild that in everything that we do day in and day out. It's rather looking at long term than focusing on short term profit and other benefits. So I want to leave with that. In the interest of time, I think I have to stop. Once again, I thank everyone for inviting me for this important occasion, and I once again congratulate these young accountants for your great job, and keep doing the good work, because we need most of these people, most of this knowledge, most of this work in the country. And With that, I wish all the very best to everyone, and let's all hope that the country will come back to what we expect, and let us do our part at our individual level. As Professor rightly highlighted, you don't have to do for country, you don't have to do for the government, do it for the citizens of this country. Thank you very much, and all the best.